The power struggle stage in every relationship is inevitable. In fact, every single relationship has one. And while it can be really challenging, it is also an opportunity for renewed passion and for tremendous growth and connection. So, join me in this video as we explore three essential steps that will help guide you through this phase with a lot more ease, allowing you to rekindle the love and connection you might have thought that you lost. My name is Thais Gibson, and I am the founder of the Personal Development School. I created the Personal Development School after about 10 years in client based practice and after healing my own attachment style and attachment wounds. And I'm here to share as many powerful tools as I can with you. Join me on this channel if you'd like to subscribe and not miss a daily video where we talk about attachment styles, the subconscious mind, reconditioning, and a whole bunch of tips and tools for really empowered relationships. So, in today's video, we are going to cover exactly these three powerful tools. They're going to help you navigate the power struggle stage a lot more easily. And if you weren't already familiar, something that you really need to know before we even dig into this is that there are 6 stages to every single relationship. This is based off of the work of Dr. Susan Johnson, where she talks about the 5 stages of relationships. But what I've done in particular is separate out the honeymoon stage into the dating and honeymoon stage. So we can talk about how those stages really impact us individually. So, in every single relationship, there is number one, the dating stage. The dating stage is designed to be the vetting stage. It's the time in a relationship dynamic where you are learning about somebody. You are seeing if they have non negotiables. You are seeing if they meet your standards and needs, and if you are also a good fit for their lives in the same way. Once you've vetted for somebody for long enough and you've had those important conversations and dialogues, we then move into the honeymoon stage, which is essentially marked by some form of commitment to a relationship. And at this point, we start seeing elevated neurochemistry of serotonin and dopamine and phenylethylamine, the attraction neurochemical. And we tend to even see more oxytocin, the bonding neurochemical. And we're sort of in this all time high, but we tend to be connecting to this person that we're in a relationship with certain conditions. We're not really making space for ourselves to be loved unconditionally because we're showing up in the relationship still at this stage with certain conditions attached. We're not usually letting somebody see our deep fears and flaws, but as we become more and more comfortable over time, this is what we start to do. We start taking off the mask. We let somebody in. We show somebody more of our true selves. We share more of our emotions. We rely on the other person more. And this is actually what kicks off the power struggle stage in relationships, which is what we're here to talk about. Now, statistically, the power struggle stage is the stage that most breakups occur within. And it tends to be the hardest stage of a relationship. But if we do make it through the power struggle stage, we entered into the preceding stages being the stability, commitment, and bliss stages. The bliss being like the honeymoon stage, but you have a much deeper knowing of understanding and understanding of the person you're in a relationship with. So the power struggle stage, as I said, is where most people tend to actually break up in a relationship. It can be really challenging and obviously is marked by a lot more fighting, arguments, conflicts, ups and downs, heightened emotions, and can end up having a lot of like push-pull dynamics in the relationship as well. But there are 3 things that we can do to really thrive in this stage and to not make it so difficult so that we can rekindle that depth and that passion and that connection with somebody that we might have really felt in those earlier stages. Tool number 1, you have to share vulnerably what hurt you. Now, I've worked in client practice long enough to know that people often think they are sharing vulnerably and they often are not. Sharing vulnerably does not mean saying to somebody, stop doing that. It's bothering me. It also doesn't mean saying to somebody, hey, you always say these things to me and I don't like it. Okay. Sharing vulnerably means saying something, and let's just use a client example from the past. We'll call our clients Bob and Jane. And in this particular example, Jane was sitting at the dinner table at a family event with Bob's family, and she started talking about how Bob is always messy. And she was teasing him. She thought she was being playful, but they were in the power struggle stage. And she was doing things that she wouldn't normally do in the honeymoon stage. And Bob, who actually had a lot of sensitivities to judgment from his family, didn't like that. Now, what Bob didn't do is he didn't get into the car and say, "What's wrong with you that you criticize me in front of my family?" Or "Why would you do something so ridiculous?" Or, "Hey," or he didn't just shut down and ice her out, right? He didn't criticize, he didn't get angry back. He did something that was healthy in this power struggle stage. He instead said, "Hey, I know you might have meant it in a playful manner, but I'm actually kind of sensitive around my family and their opinions. And so in the future, can you be a little bit more mindful around those things that I may feel insecure about?" And when what that is sharing vulnerably what hurt you, actually vulnerably, actually letting somebody see your inside world and letting your partner know what exists within there. And this allows us to enter into a space where, through vulnerability and then our partner seeing and understanding and accepting us, we can take a massive step forward to make it to the proceeding stages of a relationship where we can thrive and deepen the connection. And the power struggle stage in a relationship is a crisis and an opportunity. It is challenging, and there can be a form of crisis because we have this dynamic that we have to work out where somebody can hurt us more deeply because we're more vulnerable to them and it can affect us. But the opportunity is that when we communicate that to them in a relationship that's worth staying in your life, they're going to remember that information. They're going to be mindful mindful of that in the future. And in the right relationship, through proper communication and vulnerability, that partner is going to be the next person at your next family Christmas dynamic when another family member criticizes you, to jump in and to protect you or defend you and say all the great things that exist about you. And that is the opportunity we give to ourselves when we share vulnerably, to really receive more unconditionally based love. Essentially being loved with your imperfections, with your fears, with your flaws. And this isn't me saying don't work on those things. Like, of course, if we have these sensitivities, we can set boundaries with our family, or we can work through the stories we have about ourselves not being good enough, or fears that we're carrying that way. But it is a beautiful opportunity to deepen the connection in your relationship when you share the things that are sensitive to you, that don't feel good to you. You talk about them in a vulnerable way, and you give a loved one in your life the information they need in order to better love you and to better consider you. So this is powerful tool number one: sharing vulnerably what hurt you, not sharing critically or from a frustrated space, or not just shutting down or stonewalling, sharing vulnerably what hurt you. Tool number two: validating your partner's feelings when they do the same. Okay. It is very powerful when you don't have all the information and somebody does share. So let's reverse roles here for a second. Let's say instead that Bob shares with you. Okay. You're not Bob sharing vulnerably what hurt you, but now Bob or your partner is sharing with you something that hurt you. So Bob says, "Hey, at dinner, you made a joke about me being messy, but I'm kind of sensitive to my family's opinions and it didn't feel that good for me. Can you be more mindful about that in the future?" Instead, one of the best things you can do in this situation is be accepting of your partner sharing that. And we can demonstrate that acceptance by validating that person's feelings. So if you say to Bob, "Hey, I didn't know that. I'm glad you shared that with me. I'm sorry that hurt you. And now that you say it, I can see why that would feel hurtful." When we validate, when we say we can understand why you feel that way, we are expressing empathy and we are expressing acceptance. And these are very powerful tools to deepen a connection and also to positively reinforce somebody else opening up to us. You'll never make it through the power struggle stage of a relationship if neither person is willing to be vulnerable and open up, or if every time one person does, the other person negatively reinforces it. It's going to keep you separate. It's going to stop you from merging your inner worlds with each other because it doesn't feel good to do that. And if instead you can present with empathy, with acceptance, with that understanding, using point number two here, you're going to see a huge needle mover. In fact, two of the overarching themes that are actually required to create more connection in a relationship are acceptance and vulnerability. Now, I have a really powerful number three for you, but I do just want to say, if you are in the power struggle stage and you really want to overcome it, you can actually check out our attachment styles in each of the 6 stages of relationships. We actually have a whole course just about your attachment style and how to overcome the power struggle stage based on your attachment style. If you don't know your attachment style, you can take our free quiz down below. But if you already know and you want to do deeper work around overcoming the power struggle, I actually have a course. I'll link for you down below. You can check out fully for free, just for a limited time, 7 days for free, limited time offer. I'll put in the description box down below. Now, point number 3 here for how to navigate the power struggle is to do something called trait integration work. What is trait integration work? Trait integration work is about understanding your differences in traits in a relationship and finding a way to take on these traits ever so slightly so that those traits don't become something that create an infatuation resentment cycle. I'll tell you an example. I had clients, I've seen this actually in my own life, but I'm going to share a client example. I had clients who we'll just rename them Bob and Jane. And in this dynamic, Bob was somebody who was very assertive, very strong, very easy to set his boundaries, no problem setting his boundaries at all. I've seen this in many, many relationships over time. And Jane was somebody who was really not assertive, was negatively reinforced for the trait of assertiveness growing up. If she was trying to be too assertive or say no, she was often shamed by her family growing up. So she felt like, okay, I can't really speak up for my own opinions or my own needs. I have to kind of tiptoe around them all the time. So when she met Bob, she infatuated with that trait. In fact, a difference in traits is one of 3 major factors that drives attraction. I have videos about the 3 major traits that drive attraction on this channel. I'm not going to go into all of them right now, but all you need to know for this video, I'll link that down below. But all you need to know for this video is it's one of 3 major things. It's called trait variety. Okay. If somebody is a biological thing, if, you know, hundreds of years ago, people were out trying to survive. One person's really strong, one person's really smart. They pair up together, they have a better chance at survival. Hence, why biologically we are attracted to people with different traits. You hear this all the time in the term opposites attract. But what we are often attracted to that brings us sort of up to this peak in the relationship usually causes resentment in the power struggle stage specifically if we do not integrate this trait. What I mean by this is in the case of Bob and Jane, originally Jane was very infatuated by the assertiveness of Bob and how easy it was for him to be assertive. But in the power struggle stage, what she came to feel instead was Bob always says no to me. I'm sick and tired of Bob not making compromises. I'm sick and tired of Bob not being able to make concessions on different things. He's always so assertive, always his boundaries are way too strong. It's not fair. And so the things that we often infatuate with at the beginning, we come to resent later on. I was having a discussion earlier today where somebody said, oh, if somebody's really laid back, okay. So if the trait is they're very laid back, maybe you find that something that you infatuate with very much in the dating stage and the honeymoon stage. In the power struggle stage, you're like, they never make an effort. They're too laid back. So often the things that we are really attracted to, we will actually resent later unless, and this is powerful tool number 3, we learn to take on a little bit of that trait ourselves. In other words, if Jane can learn to be a little more assertive and say, hey, Bob, I understand you want to set a boundary, but I need you to make compromises sometimes. I need you to be willing to make concessions in the relationship for this to work. It's really important to me that you also make time and space for my needs. If she can assert herself back, she can now give Bob the information he needs to be more considerate of her. And in a compatible relationship, Bob will make those concessions and help make the relationship work because she's taking on that trait of assertiveness. So she can also assert her needs into the relationship. Another example is if we're in a dynamic where one person's very laid back and the other person's maybe more rigid or uptight or very type A, likes everything just so, if we're in a position where we say, hey, I want you to make more of an effort in the relationship, and then we allow space for them to do so, and we can sort of take our foot off the gas pedal all the time and allow some space for us to be more laid back. Take that in sometimes. Usually there's just enough room for the more laid back person to actually take initiative, right? Without feeling like you're the person who always planning everything so far in advance that they can never even get in there to make a plan before you've already planned it. So in all different cases, you will see the things that trigger you in your power struggle stage are often things that you first infatuated with. And by integrating some of this trait yourself, meaning actually practicing using some of these traits within your own life, your ability to assert yourself, your ability to take your foot off the gas and be a little more laid back or nonchalant. When we do these things, we actually stop this infatuation resentment cycle from taking place and we allow for growth in the relationship. And this won't stop the attraction from being there. It will stop the detriment of the power struggle stage from derailing the entire relationship and allow you instead to navigate your relationship with a lot more ease. In fact, as there's this sort of merging of your internal worlds together, it usually strengthens the relationship, allows you to see more eye to eye, and helps you rekindle that spark, that love and connection that you might have otherwise felt like you lost. So, that is it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed this conversation. Thank you for stopping by. Thank you for watching. If you have more questions about the power struggle stage, about trait integration work, or anything like that, please let me know in the comments below. And again, I'll put that course there in the description so you can check it out for 7 days for fully free, limited time. And I hope you really enjoyed this. Thank you for watching.